Hi everyone, welcome to this week's Halton Hills housing update. So we're definitely seeing inventory starting to pile on here, so this is going to be interesting to watch if this shifts the market. So looking at what happened last week, Georgetown had 14 sales. That's a good, strong week in terms of sales for Georgetown. We are definitely seeing the buyers out, but the interesting piece is just how much inventory is coming back on the market. So last week we had 22 new listings in Georgetown, and same with the week before. So we are seeing very high volumes of listings hitting the market right now, and we all know sort of what happens when we start to see things kind of pile on week to week is when our inventory gets extremely high, buyers kind of put on the brakes to see what's going to happen, and sellers have to drop their price. So we are in a different spot than we've been in the last few months, and our inventory is definitely getting higher. One of the interesting things from last week is when we're looking at our sales, of the 14 sales in Georgetown, 8 of them, so more than half of them, sold over $1 million. That price point has definitely been struggling, and it's been slower to find the buyers. And so to see a lot of properties transacting over that million mark is really interesting. So we're going to be watching that if, that trend sort of shifts as the inventory rises, and, the market may cool down a bit. So let's see. Acton this week had 1 sale and 9 new listings. So a ton of listings hitting the market in Acton. Glen had no sales and 1 new listing. Nothing happened in Limehouse, and the rural market had no sales but 4 new listings. Another piece of it is when we were looking at properties that, adjusted their prices or came off the market, we had 16 properties that either terminated, expired, or were suspended last week. And when we looked at what happened with them, 9 of them came back on the market at a reduced price. So we are seeing sellers still adjusting their pricing downward, which is interesting. We had this period where the market was really good. We were starting to see, bidding wars and stuff, and that's still the case. I mean, we had 4 properties in Halton Hills sell over asking last week, but to see the sellers coming back on the market at reduced pricing is showing that not every single house is sort of flying off the market here. There was 1 property that attempted a hold off of offers, didn't work, so they came back at a higher price. 5 properties came completely off the market, just sort of wasn't the time for them, or they're not getting the activity they were hoping for, and 1 property relisted at the same price. So those trends sort of show us, they're really good indicators that we're not in like a crazy strong market. There's still sellers who are not happy with what's happening, so they're either adjusting their pricing or they're deciding to come off the market. And that's the majority of properties last week, sort of that made any changes. So again, we'll be watching that. Let's see. So now looking at active listings this week, this is definitely the conversation because this number is really starting to creep up here. So last week we were at 167 active listings. This week we're at 184. That is a pretty high number. Once we hit 200, we're definitely feeling very saturated. So we are not far off that. We were, we've doubled our inventory basically in less than 3 months, and that is never going to be a good thing for pricing and for sellers. The market still feels very strong right now, so there's that sort of silver lining, but it will definitely flip if things start to slow down. The hope is that interest rates go down and the market picks up again, and we don't need to worry about these inventory levels. But for now, where inventory is going, it definitely could shift the market. So Georgetown this week is up from 90 to 98 active listings. So we're almost over that 100. We peaked into the 140s. So we still have a gap to go before we're like totally saturated, but definitely feeling that climb in Georgetown. Looking at our price points, under 800,000 is up from 6 to 10 active listings. Majority condo townhomes and condo units, but not a lot available. Basically under $1 million, not a lot is available. So 800 to $1 million is up from 12 to 14. So we only have, of the 98 listings, only 24 listings are under that $1 million mark, and the rest are sitting in our higher price points. And even when we saw the properties coming down in price, they almost all were over that $1 million range. It's just a trickier price point to find a buyer, to nail down your price, and to get your house sold. So looking at inventory from 1 to 1.5 million, that actually went down from 40 to 38 active listings. And that was the pocket when I talked about 8 properties between 1 million plus, majority of them were in there. So I'm not surprised to see that pocket soften a bit this week, but I do think we need to watch that pocket because that is the one that gets super saturated when the market starts to turn. So 1.5 million plus is up from 32 to 36. Tons of people trying to fetch big dollars for their properties right now. Lots of properties over $2 million. It is super hard to find a buyer these days over $2 million. So we'll see a lot of those properties sitting for a very long time, but 36 is a lot in that 1.5 million plus. So again, we're just feeling saturated in terms of our inventory. It's not the worst we've seen, but it's definitely getting close to numbers that we don't want to see because it's just too high of inventory for sellers. Looking at Acton this week, I think this is the highest number I've ever seen in Acton. I think 31 was my previous record, if I'm not mistaken. So Acton this week is up from 25 to 32 active listings. There is so much stuff available in Acton. Like normally I don't have to like scroll and like get to a second page of like Acton stuff, and I had to this week. So there's just a ton of stuff available. Still far majority of it is under $1 million, so there is that sort of attractive price point in Acton, but 32, we are going to start to see prices soften in Acton at this pace. Glen Williams this week remained the same at 8, Limehouse is down to 2, and the rural market is up to 44. The highest we've ever seen in the rural market is 46. So again, we're getting very close to these high numbers. So that is this week's update. Next week, I'm going to have April's numbers. I do think we're seeing some strong sales, especially in Georgetown. The other markets are not. The other markets have a lot of properties that are higher priced. They're just not seeing the sales. Georgetown is still really the dominant market. We are just watching what is happening with this inventory because the numbers are certainly climbing, and it just can flip the market really quickly from it feeling strong and healthy to feeling like kind of a bit doom and gloom, and the sellers are, kind of panicking and going backwards on pricing and stuff, and it just kind of snowballs. So we'll see overall how April's numbers look. I think it was a strong month, especially for that higher price point. So I do think it's going to pull our average price point up. But I think May and June, if we continue to see these inventory numbers, we could see for a bit of a soften in terms of pricing because there's just going to be so much stuff on the market. So we'll see what happens. I'll be back next Tuesday. Have a great week, everyone.